There are so many things that are special about horseshoe crabs. People just love them, against all odds. They're not warm, they're not fuzzy, they're kind of spiky, they scuttle around, but people love horseshoe crabs, and I think there are a few reasons why. First of all, you're rooting for them because they've been around for 450 million years, right? So they've seen the dinosaurs come and go. They've survived 5 mass extinctions. They've seen every possible. They remember when there was one continent. And so the fact that they're threatened now, it makes you feel like we might not be doing something right. What would a horseshoe crab say if you asked it what it needed? That's a good question. Right now, it would say we need to be able to spawn without getting harvested and thrown in a truck and put in a freezer to be put in a whelk pot, especially since the whelk fishery is classified as depleted and overfished by the state. And so we've gone a ways towards addressing that hopefully will be implemented this year, where you won't be able to harvest them either for bait or to be bled by the biomedical industry between mid-April and June 7th.
The reason horseshoe crab blood is important to humans is because it is used as a safety test for vaccines. The blood is used to test vaccines for sterility.
You know, their role in the ecosystem as a biologist is probably the biggest way that they're special, and especially as somebody who studies birds. It's well known that certain shorebirds, including the federally threatened red knot, which is a beautiful Arctic nesting shorebird that goes from the high Arctic to Tierra del Fuego at the south end of South America for the winter, and then in spring, in May, they go to beaches from South Carolina to Monomoy here on Cape Cod, but especially in Delaware Bay, to feed on horseshoe crab eggs. So this intimate hemisphere-wide connection between species, where this globe-trotting bird has to get a certain amount of horseshoe crab eggs for food to be able to get up to weight and get back to the Arctic to breed. And so they actually manage for that down in the Delaware Bay states. They manage the horseshoe crab fishery to make sure there are enough of them to lay enough eggs to feed these shorebirds. And that connection exists here in Massachusetts as well. A little bit out of sight, out of mind, because it's at Monomoy, which is closed to the public and difficult to access. And so in May, if you were to get out there into the closed areas and get a special permit, you would see, because horseshoe crabs are protected from all forms of harvest at Monomoy, and the habitat is protected, there are tons of them. It's like walking back into the past. It's like walking back 400 years ago on Cape Cod and seeing all these horseshoe crabs and shorebirds feeding on their eggs in the sandbars. So that has always happened here in Massachusetts. It's greatly diminished now, and we are working to restore that. We had an important first step recently with the passage of new regulations that protect horseshoe crabs during their spawning season from being harvested for bait and for their blood. And so we're hoping that will start the process of bringing back the population, restoring the population so they can fulfill that ecological role, those connections to other species. And there are others too. They've done studies where horseshoe crabs are more common. They're an important food for loggerhead sea turtles, which are federally protected. Fish eat the eggs. You know, they stir up the sediment and they bring nutrients back into the water column. If you follow horseshoe crabs around as they're feeding and digging around, you'll see that little fish are following them, kind of like birds following the buffalo, or and feeding on insects they stir up. It's that same sort of thing where they're following them and feeding on things that they're stirring up. So they have lots of different ways that they're ecologically important, in addition to the ways that people find them fascinating and just love them.